My friend Andy Henly has dispatched an ethanol train from his layout to my layout. That train is crossing my layout today. Let's go trackside and I will show you. I'm Roy Smith. I'm glad you could join me for this special layout video today. As I said, Andy Henly has sent an ethanol train my way, and I'm about to show it to you. Andy lives in the UK, but he models American railroads. His N-scale Montrose and Highland Railroad is a fictional layout running from Ohio to Colorado. As I said, Andy dispatched an ethanol train from South Pine, Indiana on his layout to my layout, which is set in Wyoming and Utah. Here you see the train now sitting on track 1 in staging on my layout. In a moment, I'm going to let Andy tell you about the train, but first, there are 5 things that I need to mention by way of introduction. First, my layout, the N-scale Union Pacific Evanston Subdivision, is a bridge route. It is part of the so-called Union Pacific Overland Route that connects the American Midwest and West Coast. Second, the train that Andy dispatched is loaded with ethanol. Ethanol is a volatile, flammable liquid. One of its uses is as an additive to gasoline. It is mostly produced in the American Midwest from corn crops. From the Midwest, it is shipped primarily by train to eastern and western destinations. Third, there is one terminal on my layout to which ethanol can be delivered by rail, there blended with gasoline, and then trucked to service stations around southwestern Wyoming. It is a fictional industry called Crown Oil and Gas. You have seen it in previous videos, and you will see it again today. Fourth, this is an ops video. I will be narrating it because to me, it's difficult to know what's going on in an ops video that has no narration. And fifth, there are a number of important links to other videos down below in the description to this video. These links will take you to other videos about important things that you will be seeing in this video. I encourage you to go down and browse through the links after today's video ends. Now, here's Andy to tell you about the train that he dispatched.
Welcome everyone to Montrose and Highland Railroad 60. It's my pleasure to link this video with one of Roy Smith's Union Pacific N-scale Evanston Subdivision layout. And now we see the Norfolk Southern ethanol train heading out on its way to Roy Smith's Evanston Subdivision layout. Here the train's entering South Pine Yard. Motive power has now been changed from Norfolk Southern to Union Pacific, and the train is ready to depart for the Evanston Subdivision.
Here again is Andy's train on my layout. It is sitting on track 1 in staging. That track represents the off-layout destination of Cheyenne, Wyoming. As I said before, the train originated in Indiana, and it's now headed to the San Francisco Bay Area. It features the same locomotives and buffer cars that Andy dispatched, but otherwise some of the cars in the consist have changed as a result of drop-offs and pickups along the way. And speaking of buffer cars, you normally see covered hoppers filled with sand running as buffer cars on my layout, and you will see one later on in this video. Buffer cars are placed between tank cars containing flammable products and locomotives which can be a source of ignition. The Union Pacific website says that boxcars, covered hoppers, gondolas, and even other tank cars can be used as buffers. The UP website also says that buffer cars must be loaded with non-hazardous inert material that will not shift around as the train moves. It is the shipper's responsibility to provide buffer cars that are in good mechanical condition. The ethanol train is now departing westbound. It is now ascending my eastern helix. I call it my eastern helix because it brings trains from eastern origins in staging up to the scenic level of my layout. The train now appears on the scenic level of my layout. It passes White Mountain, which sits atop the eastern helix. White Mountain is a 20-mile-long escarpment stretching from Rock Springs to Green River in Wyoming. Here you see the train passing Crown Oil and Gas. This is the destination for two of the tank cars in the train. However, the train will not be making a direct drop-off here for two reasons. First, this is a through freight, so it will drop off the two tank cars at nearby Green River Yard. A local freight will then deliver the two cars to Crown. The second reason is we don't want to block the main line, which is trafficked by some 40 to 80 trains each day. The train leaves the double-track main line and enters the arrival-departure track at Green River. Green River Yard is the largest classification yard on my layout. In addition to dropping off the two tank cars, a crew change must occur here as well. The lead locomotive has stopped at the Green River Yard office for the crew change. A replacement crew has boarded and is taking the locomotive consist to the yard refueling point. The pedestrian bridge that you see here was built back in the 1930s. It connects the north and south sides of town, which are separated by the Union Pacific tracks. The pedestrian bridge is the best spot for rail fanning at Green River. This is the yard's maintenance and refueling facility. It was one of the first structures I built on my layout way back in December 2015. I kit bashed it from a Tomix kit in an attempt to replicate the prototype at Green River. Now, while the mainline diesels are being refueled, a yard switcher moves to detach the two tank cars that are destined for Crown Oil and Gas. The yard switcher is taking the two tank cars from the arrival-departure track, as well as the lead buffer car temporarily, to classification track number 3. Now the switcher returns the lead buffer car to the train. The two mainline diesels have been refueled and are returning to the head of the ethanol train. The train now departs Green River to continue its westbound journey. And with the arrival departure track now clear, the yard switcher can return to those two tank cars with a covered hopper filled with sand as a buffer. The switcher couples up to the two tank cars that have been sitting on classification track number 3. It proceeds to shove them toward Crown Oil and Gas. Meanwhile at Crown, an NW2 owned by Crown prepares for delivery of the two tank cars. This NW2 was built in 1949. It served the CB&Q Railroad until CB&Q sold it to Crown in 1970. The yard switcher is now bringing those two tank cars to Crown to drop off. The NW2 will handle them on Crown industry tracks. Federal regulations do not require that a buffer car be used on industry tracks. The NW2 shoves the two tank cars onto Crown Track 1, where they will be unloaded. Now let's get back to the ethanol train that Andy dispatched. Having departed Green River Yard, it is now passing through Green River West. And now it's passing through Evanston, Wyoming. Recently you saw me build the railroad complex here at Evanston, but I still have a lot of work to do on this part of my layout. The train passes under Emory Bridge. Echo Canyon is the most scenic part of my layout, just as it is on the prototype that I am modeling. You saw me create Echo Canyon over the course of 16 episodes. After leaving Echo Canyon, the train descends by Western Helix. And after descending the Western Helix, the train emerges back in staging. This end of staging represents Ogden, Utah, and points west. Andy, it has been a pleasure to do this collaboration with you. Thank you for suggesting it and for launching it with your video. What a great way to share the hobby. Now then, I want you to remember that I administer the N-Scale Union Pacific Evanston Subdivision Facebook group. I encourage all of you to go over and join the group. I announce my new videos in the group, and you can share photos of your layout there. I import your layout photos into Dispatch, the weekly variety show for model railroaders. Also remember, there are nearly 300 other videos for you to watch right here on this channel. I will put a link to my videos page and my playlist page down below. Or you can just click over here to watch these two videos. Well, thanks again for joining me today. I'm Roy Smith. Until next time, happy railroading.